Paramedicine is an ever-evolving field of medicine and an exciting workforce that is ever propelling forwards. I will firstly discuss how paramedicine has evolved since the days of stretcher bearers and ambulance drivers, to now being registered health professionals with the Australian Health Practitioner Regulation Agency known as AHPRA, what registration of paramedicine means to the modern paramedic, and finally I will discuss professionalism and what it means to be a professional today. Paramedicine is historically a public service role, with the first ambulance service established in Italy in the year 1240. The focus of the role was on removing fevered or dead people from their homes and transporting them to hospital. This service was performed by a pair of brothers, and as such they were given the title Company of the Brothers of Mercy. Similar to modern paramedics, they too would receive calls for a job. However, this call came in the form of the town bell ringing to call them to service. They were held in high regard within their community for their compassion and for their heroism. The next record of paramedicine is 500 years later in Spain, where a military field hospital during the siege of Malaga used the term ambulance to refer to the mobility of physicians and stretcher bearers in the war fronts. A French physician years later noted that speed was a factor with injured soldiers, and thus a great need was placed on reaching soldiers and carrying them to hospital in a timely manner to improve patient outcomes. Throughout the following wars, the development of paramedicine has been greatly propelled forwards. In more modern times, paramedics have made the transition from stretcher bearer to ambulance driver to ambulance officer to paramedic. But what does the title paramedic mean today? As according to Paramedics Australasia, a paramedic is defined as a health professional who provides rapid response, emergency medical assessment, treatment, and care in the out-of-hospital environment. It also entails individuals completing a bachelor's degree in paramedic health science or the completion of an internship program. However, being a paramedic is now a protected title under AHPRA through the National Registration and Accreditation Scheme, and with this title comes registration and regulation. The regulation of paramedics is not a new concept. Paramedicine has been a regulated occupation within Australia since the time of stretcher bearers. However, as paramedicine evolves, so too does the need for increased regulation and regulatory bodies, which brings us forward to modern times under the registration with the Australian Health Practitioner Regulation Agency, and thus provides national law governance. Currently, paramedicine is registered with AHPRA under the Board of Paramedicine, which was appointed in 2017. AHPRA is comprised of 15 boards, registering hundreds of thousands of health professionals each year. So what does this mean to the modern paramedic? With the registration of paramedicine through AHPRA comes the following benefits. The protection of the paramedic title under national law, meaning only true qualified registered health professionals under the Board of Paramedicine may call themselves a paramedic. National mobility for paramedics. This allows for ease of transition between states and territories due to a recognition of standardised practice. Nixon further explains the importance for international standards to be applicable to paramedics to ensure that service is delivering a level of healthcare which meets public demands and expectations. Acknowledgement of the paramedic contribution to the healthcare service within Australia as one of 15 boards of AHPRA. A consistency in national standards, including continuing professional development, referred to as CPD, recency of practice, professional indemnity insurance agreements, English language skills, and criminal history checks. The final benefit is approval of study programs through setting of competencies for the workforce at university and institutional levels, which was previously set by organisations such as Paramedics Australasia and the Australian and New Zealand College of Paramedicine. A further benefit to the registration of paramedicine, as stated by Devnish 2014, is the concept of how registration influences professional socialisation. Although this change appears subtle, there is a notable shift in attitudes within ambulance culture to sway towards a more unified and professional approach. Perhaps the most significant of these benefits for the working paramedic is the introduction of continuing professional development through AHPRA. As mentioned, AHPRA sets standards to be upheld for registration, including CPD, which regulates how health professionals maintain competencies and improve their knowledge bases within their field of expertise. This is a vital part of registration, as it ensures that all current registered health professionals who are practicing under their governing body are practicing within an evidence-based framework that matches current literature. Furthermore, continuing professional development assists practitioners in identifying gaps and/or flaws in their knowledge, with an emphasis on professional inquiry and knowledge-building cycles to fill these gaps and correct the flaws. An aspect of CPD in paramedicine is mentoring students in their development of paramedic theory, practice, and professionalism. The act of being an educational guide encourages health professionals to consolidate their own learning and knowledge alongside that of their students. As stated by Willis and Dalrymple, paramedic culture has fostered learning for many years, with a focus on the qualified officer being a positive role model and instilling not only knowledge, but concepts of professionalism within paramedicine to their students. How paramedic students learn professionalism is an important concept as it shapes the future of the paramedic service and impacts directly on how a student performs within their role. The current learning model uses a two-part system. Firstly, the university setting, where lecturers and tutors discuss the concept of what paramedic practice and professionalism entails. And secondly, consolidation occurs through a paramedic mentor on clinical placement. For this to be effective, it is imperative that students are aligned with a positive role model within the ambulance service to ensure that these high standards set by universities are reinforced. It is important to understand the basis of what it means to be a health professional, for this then to be applied to paramedicine. A profession is a status which holds a wealth of knowledge, authority, self-governance, and culture. A professional is expected to perform a technical skill at a high level with adherence to moral and ethical conduct. To demonstrate professionalism, it is essential to understand what the requirements of the regulatory body are. Typically, this relates to a person's behaviour and attitude whilst performing within their role of their profession. Qualities such as honesty, integrity, trustworthiness, objectivity, and compassion are expected of paramedics within the community, and it is these qualities alongside a paramedic's knowledge and skill basis that upholds the public's confidence and high regard for the paramedic profession. Ethical and moral conduct is an integral element of healthcare as it relates directly to professionalism within paramedicine. The question of whether something is right or wrong may not always be the simplest question, and many clinicians vary on their opinions as to what the correct proceedings may be for a particular case. It is important in these situations to practice within the code of ethics and portray the previously mentioned qualities of professionalism: honesty, integrity, trustworthiness, objectivity, and compassion within all actions taken within the paramedic role. Regulation of conduct within paramedicine is not only a guiding aspect for paramedic practice, but it ensures patient safety and the provision of good care to the public. AHPRA defines good care as a paramedic who practices within their scope of practice to deliver safe and effective care. Good care should also align with the patient-centered care, which supports patients in taking responsibility for the management of their own health. By exploring how paramedicine has evolved over time and how AHPRA registration affects the modern paramedic, looking into the benefits of registration, and finally what professionalism within paramedicine entails, it is clear that paramedicine is most certainly a health profession deserving of its title, and that professionalism is a vital part of paramedic practice, which should be embraced by every paramedic within the service to uphold the long-held respect and trust that is given to paramedics by its community. Thank you.